Day Adventist Steel Orchestra doing a Nervin Saunders arrangement of My Tribute from the Echoes of Praise album on the Sanch label. Selection we just heard was brought to you by Thrifty Specialty Produce and Meats of Palm Bay. Thrifty Specialty Produce and Meats of Palm Bay offers a wide selection of fresh fruit, vegetables, fish, and meat for the international palate. Frozen foods, fresh dairy, and hot food at the deli are also available, as well as wholesale and catering services coming soon at Thrifty, money transfer services to Haiti, Jamaica, and the West Indies. Thrifty Specialty Produce of Palm Bay is located at 2135 Palm Bay Road. Call 321-726-8007. That's 321-726-8007. At Thrifty Specialty Produce and Meats, freshness is guaranteed.
All right, we're going to be hearing from Thrifty shortly about what's on sale at Thrifty. Edgar's going to join us, and if you're in Brevard County, you'd want to listen carefully and get down to Thrifty Specialty Produce of Palm Bay to get all the stuff you need to make that Mother's Day really, really special. We want to say good morning to Edward and Adrian and Patricia. They joined us on our Facebook page, Facebook Live. So we're really happy to have you join us. You're listening to the Steelpan Vibes. It's more than music radio show on 1510 AM WWBC 94.7, 99.9, 100.7 FM in Brevard County, streaming live around the globe at facebook.com/Steelpan Vibes, 1510 WWBC.com, available on app WWBC for Androids and iPhones. We thank you so much for joining us for our Mother's Day special. Yes, it's dedicated to all moms, those who are listening and those who may not be listening. You gotta call a mom and tell them to listen. Happy birthday greetings to Ian Franklin and all our listeners celebrating birthdays in the month of May. Let's listen to a group of young vocalists. There's no pan in it. This group of young people, young men, they're from Haiti, called King Posse. You ever heard of King Posse, Asa?
I think I actually have heard of King Posse before.
Well, they're going to be singing Mama from the album I Know.
That you know I will. You said I really love you, mama. Oh yeah. You said I wanna please you, mama. There's 1,000 words that I could say to thank you, mama. Yeah, you are the best thing in my life. Did anything to set things right. You showed me how to grow when I was a boy. You did anything to set things right, mama. You know that I love you. I love you. I love you, yeah.
I love you. Yes, I need you.
Mama, I love you.
Yes, I need you more.
Said
I love you. Yes, I need you.
I remember when you told me keep it tight.
Yes, I need you.
Mama, I love you.
Yes, I need you more.
I love you so hard,
Yes, I need
so
you.
hard. Dear mama. Said I love you. I love you. You. Sure. Ever since I was a little boy, you turned me out to be a man. Mama, I want you
Steelpan Vibes, it's more than music.
I love you.
The radio show has been on the air for 8 years because our sponsors make it possible. Please give them your support. Go to our Facebook page, select videos, click on live to join us now, later, or anytime. And remember to like, comment, and share our page. Steelpan Vibes is brought to you by Brown's Bakery and Restaurant. For mouth-watering baked goods, soups, beverages, and meals, from patties to rock cake, chicken to goat head soup, juices to coconut water, and West Indian-style meals from jerk chicken to oxtails and delicious roti too. All at Brown's Bakery and Restaurant. Located at 1155 Malabar Road, inside the Interchange Plaza. Call 321-727-1060. That's 321-727-1060. Catering also available. Brown's Bakery and Restaurant. Taste you can't resist. And St. Paul's Religious and Gift Store. Wishing all mothers a happy Mother's Day. For unique inspirational gifts and cards for Mother's Day and graduation, come and check out St. Paul's Religious and Gift Store and get great customer service. 620 East New Haven Avenue in historic downtown Melbourne. Call 321-914-0835. Again, that's 321-914-0835. And tell Cynthia you heard about it on the Steelpan Vibes radio show. Good morning, Edgar. How are you today?
How's it going, Barbara? Very good, and you?
Very good, very good. Are we broadcasting at Thrifty Specialty Produce and Meats in Palm Bay?
Yes, we are.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
morning, Thrifty shoppers. Thanks for listening. Edgar, you want to tell us what's on sale? What do you have special for Mother's Day?
Yeah, so for Mother's Day for this week, 1 second, my system is acting a little funny today. 1 second. What are you doing for Mother's Day, Barbara, this week?
I'm just gonna be home relaxing, enjoying all the goodies, putting my feet up because I broke my toe last Saturday. So I'm hopping a little bit.
Toe?
Yes, I stumped it on some furniture. But
That's terrible.
It is, but it's getting better. I just gotta keep it elevated. That's what they say. But apart from that, I'm doing fine.
Well, we hope you get better. And for the week of May 10th through May 16th, Thrifty Specialty Produce, we have Florida peaches for $1.48 a pound. We have kiwis for $4 for $1, cucumbers 3 for 99 cents. We have green bananas for 28 cents a pound. We also have, on the meat side of things, we have the beautiful beef eye-round roast for only $3.98 a pound. Some beautiful beef chuck steaks for $4.48 a pound. On the grocery side of things, we actually have the Juliana jerk seasoning, 2 for $5. We also have the Grace coconut milk, the 13-ounce can for 88 cents each. And we have Kingfish on sale this week, which is a little rare, but Kingfish on sale this week for $4.98 a pound. We also have hot food every day running until 8 o'clock. We've got pastries. We've got all types of stuff going on, and we just want to wish all the mothers out there in the Caribbean, in Palm Bay, all over Florida, a happy Mother's Day.
Oh, thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you again next week. Take care.
Okay, Barbara. Thank you. Bye.
All right. I remember my mother's smile. That was Ray Hallman doing Memory of Your Smile from the In Touch album. And before that, and in the background, we heard For the Love of You, an Ernie Isley and Chris Jappa composition arranged by Robbie Greenidge for the legendary Desperado Steel Orchestra on the Different Me album. You know, a very good friend of mine passed away last week. He was a bookseller in New York. He moved to Orlando in the early 2000s, and his name was Fritz Brother Tenny Lewis. Much more, Brother Tenny represented what was good and wholesome about the human experience. Here's what 3 listeners who knew him had to say. From Lauren in Orlando. The thing I love most about Fritz was his ability to laugh at the best and worst situations. From Joy in Atlanta. A Pan-African optimist who worked tirelessly to educate our people. From Kai in New York. Brother Tenny was always so positive. He took his health in stride. He was a fearless warrior. And I think our guest, Dwayne, met him briefly. I had recommended he speak to him because, you know, Dwayne is a prolific writer. Dwayne, what was your experience with Brother Tenny?
It was a great experience. I went there to discuss, at the time he had a bookstore, so I went there to discuss possibly getting some of my books at his store, and I ended up staying there for many hours just discussing any and everything with him because he's, as one of the comments said, he's a Pan-Africanist, so he has all kinds of experiences with different scholars throughout this country. He's met different people on the African continent, so I just sat there listening to him tell me his experiences, and it's very inspiring. It's an experience I'll always keep with me.
Well, we at the Steelpan Vibes radio show, we send our condolences to his wife, family, and friends. More music. We have some new listeners up there. Cecil, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Dingole Panjambi. Oh my goodness. We're so glad to have you with us. More music for moms coming up after this word from Harris Cassell Institute.
Harris Cassell Institute. You've decided to go back to school but not sure of what you'd like to do? If you are looking for a new career, at Harris Cassell Institute, your success is our priority. We provide educational programs in the fields of health occupations, home health aide, nursing assistant, EKG, phlebotomy, practical nursing, patient care technician, and the growing field of medical billing and coding. Enrollment is ongoing. Day and evening classes offered. Give us a call at 321-676-4066. Visit our campus at 5000 Stack Boulevard, Suite A4 in Palm Bay, or online at harris-cassell.com. Harris Cassell Institute, where quality students are made into quality employees.
Isn't she lovely? Of course she is. She and all the moms who are listening to us this morning, Victor Provost, so skillful and timely, from his album Smooth Steel. The set began with a 1950s hit, Unchained Melodies, performed by Soundtech Steel Orchestra from the beautiful island of Barbados. Well, we're drawing very close to the Steelpan Vibe Spotlight with our regular guest, writer, political activist, Dwayne Akio Wong Omowali. He is a very busy young man, writing and organizing all over Orlando and the state of Florida. He is going to share some things about his mom, new books that he's written, and events and activities that are coming up to celebrate African Liberation Day. So stay tuned to the Steelpan Vibes, It's More Than Music radio show. Paul, before we get to the spotlight with Dwayne, can we have a little jam, a little real unity from Woodbrook Playboys?
Having a choice means having control. Healthcare professionals choose Vitas Healthcare because we put control where it belongs, with you, your patient, and their family. Talking about options and choices that help to manage pain and symptoms at the end of life. You and your patients have a choice when it comes to selecting a hospice provider. Choose Vitas. Call 888-VITAS-80 or go to Vitas.com. That's VITAS.com. First licensed in 1980.
Okay, we're in the Steelpan Vibes Spotlight with our guest, author, political activist, and writer, Dwayne Akio Wong Omowali. I love that. He has 4 names. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning.
All right, welcome back to the Steelpan Vibes Spotlight. You know, Dwayne has become a very regular guest here, and that's good. He's building up his reputation. We know tomorrow is Mother's Day, right? So I have a couple of questions about your mom. She always speaks very highly of you, and I believe she is listening on Facebook.
Yes.
Now, you've had very many accomplishments. You're, 27?
Almost,
26?
Almost 27. Next month.
Okay, next month. He's written several books, folks. This young man is somebody you want to get to know because he has a lot to share, a lot of positive vibrations. Back to your mom now. So she's very encouraging with all your efforts and what you do. Tell our listeners what she really means to you. You may not even have told her this, but you can go ahead.
She means everything. I don't even know if I could really put it into words, because she's been supportive of me throughout my entire life with everything that I've done. And the reason why I've written so many books and I could be engaged in all the activities that I'm engaged in is just that confidence of knowing that you have that person that will always support you throughout everything. And anytime I encounter any kind of obstacles or a setback or a failure, I know I could count on her support to get me through anything that I'm dealing with. So I owe her for everything that I've accomplished.
Wonderful, wonderful. You hear that, Mommy? He owes you everything he has accomplished. Very good. All right. So about a month ago, I went to Trinidad to visit some of my relatives there. I have 2 elderly aunts, and I had a very good relationship with my mom. In Trinidad, in New York, I mean, she was very supportive, like you say, but similarly, but also I had these other elders who provided much support, and they provided that motherly love. I never felt, unwanted or unloved. These people were always there, and I think to some degree I may have even taken them for granted. But when I went back recently, they're in their 90s. One is 92, one is like 87. I reflected on the role that they played in my development. Do you think, Dwayne, that youth today value their mothers as women who provide that motherly love?
From what I've seen, I think they do, but the problem I've noticed is not so much the youth, but society as a whole doesn't seem to place the value that it should on the role that mothers and women play as nurturers and providing that type of support that young people need to develop. Because a part of the problem to notice, like I said, society as a whole doesn't really seem to be as family orientated as it should be.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, in the Caribbean, we're very family oriented.
Yeah. I come from that background, so I know we maintain those values.
Absolutely, and if children need discipline, they get that too. They know how to do that in the Caribbean.
Yeah. And not just from the parents too. You'd get that from neighbors, from teachers, because it's that mentality that it's the responsibility of the entire village to raise the child.
That's exactly it.
And that's something I think we're lacking in this American society.
Well, we got to still do it. It might be lacking, but we got to pull it up. We got to pull that up. Now, your mom is listening today. What would you like to tell her?
Just thank you for everything.
That's it?
I mean, like I said, it's very difficult to put it into words. What she means to me and everything that she's done for me. But I'll try my best, and the best thing that I could think of is just thank you for everything.
Oh, that's nice. You hear that? Thank you for everything, Mom. And I know lots of our listeners, they're gonna turn around and think about what their moms have done, and whether they are here now or if they've passed. It doesn't matter. We still have that responsibility. We still have that responsibility to look up to our parents and live up to, some of the things that they held out for us. Now, Dwayne, you've written like 16 books so far.
16.
Right? 2 in particular I want you to tell our listeners about. One is Essays Toward Restoring the African Mind, and The Devastation and Economics of the African Holocaust. Why do you feel the African mind is in need of restoration? And secondly, what is the African Holocaust and how does it impact our lives today?
Okay, as far as restoring the African mind, one example is what we were just talking about in terms of family values, because as an African people, we come from societies that were very family orientated, had great respect for the family, and during the process of slavery and even colonialism, we were stripped of some of those values. So when I'm talking about restoring the African mind, I think as African people, we need to get back to some of the values and the culture that has sustained us as a people. And we were stripped so completely of that culture that an example I always use is right now we're having this conversation in English. English isn't our original language as African people. It was a language that was imposed on us. Mm-hmm. So a lot of who we are right now as a people is based on cultural values and things that were imposed on us. So when I'm saying restoring the African mind, I'm talking about going back to the essence and the roots of who we are as a people to deal with some of the issues that we currently face. And how this is connected to the African Holocaust. Now, in my book, when I'm writing about the African Holocaust, I discuss the history of the slave trade and slavery and colonialism and everything that has done to African people, just in terms of the human toll, the millions of Africans that were killed during this, and it still continues to impact us today when we see the struggles that African people face here in the United States, the struggles we face in the Caribbean, and the African continent has many different struggles. And again, this all goes back to that history of colonialism and slavery that we're still dealing with and still trying to overcome. And there's a direct connection between those struggles and restoring the African mind, because I feel like the first step that we need to undertake as African people to correct these problems is to change the mentalities, change the way we approach even dealing with these issues in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I want you to address why we should be concerned about what is going on in Africa. What is the connection? You're in America, you say, oh, well, Africa is so far away, slavery was so long ago. Please, just elaborate on that or comment on that.
Yes, there's a direct connection, and I mean, again, you have to look at the whole history of the African Holocaust. The problems we have right now in the United States and the Caribbean and throughout the diaspora began because of that attack on Africa. The Europeans came into Africa looking for slave labor, and we came here as a result of their quest for slave labor. They captured our ancestors and brought us here, and we're still dealing with those struggles. But the other aspect that you can look at in terms of a direct connection is the 1950s and 60s. We remember that here in the United States was the era of the civil rights movement. But what we're not really taught in school is that was also the same era where Africa was now gaining its independence, going through the process of decolonization, and that had a direct influence on the civil rights movement here. People like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and others were looking at what was going on in Africa, and that was a great inspiration for them to see these African countries being able to free themselves from colonial rule, and it inspired them to continue that struggle here, and it made it real that the possibility of African people being able to liberate ourselves from oppression. Because Malcolm X, he said this very often in his speeches: if our brothers and sisters on the African continent could free themselves from colonialism, we could do the same thing here. So it was very inspiring for the civil rights leaders to see what was going on in Africa.
Mm-hmm. Well, folks, this is the Steelpan Vibes. It's more than music radio show. We're in the spotlight with our guest, writer and political activist Dwayne Akio Wong Omowale. We have Raven Roden joining us. We have some folks from Trinidad as well. We want to thank you for listening to the Steelpan Vibes Spotlight and for tuning in. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this word from Orlando Carnival 2018.
It's time for Carnival. Come celebrate 31 years with the official Orlando Carnival of the Mass Bands on May 27th at the Central Florida Fairgrounds. Performing live, Cass and his full band.
Hello, 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 hello.
Patrice Roberts, K Rich, Sizway, Kip Rich out of Jamaica, and many more. Hosted by Kevin Kev and Madman Smalley. To purchase tickets in Orlando, visit Albin's Cuisine, The Grill Jamaican Restaurant, and Caribbean Sunshine Bakery, or go to www.ticketgateway.com. For more information, call 407-687-3312. Gates open at 12 noon. See you in Orlando at the Central Florida Fairgrounds on May 27th.
Now, added to the cast, Mr. Desmond from WAC Radio.
Okay, folks, we're back in the Steelpan Vibe Spotlight with our guest, writer, political activist, organizer, Dwayne Akio Wang Omowali. This young man has written 16 books so far. You need to go up and tell folks how they could get your books.
All 16 books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and I know there's a couple, I don't have the full list, but there are a couple of black-owned online bookstores that have them as well. The African bookstore, I believe, has about 6 of those books, and all 16 can also be bought at Pyramid Books.
Very good. You've done well, young man.
Thank
I'm
you.
so proud of you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about African Liberation Day. I remember back in the 80s, when my daughter was born, she must have been about 5 or so. We went to Washington, D.C. That was my first African Liberation Day celebration. I thought it was, quite inspiring at that time. And I think that, like, Head Start bookstores and all those other experiences influence, my interest in thinking about African Liberation Day and myself as an African descendant. Now, African Liberation Day is on the horizon, and it appears that more people, particularly those of African descent, they're becoming more interested in learning more about their African heritage. You want to give us a little background of how African Liberation Day began, what's its significance, and why we should celebrate it?
Yes, well, the origins of African Liberation Day, which is celebrated on May 25th, and it originally was organized to commemorate the founding of the Organization of African Unity on the African continent, which was founded on the same day. But yeah, you were mentioning the celebration is in D.C. Yeah, well, African Liberation Day it was originally founded to commemorate the Organization of African Unity, but took on a meaning of its own, where it became an annual celebration of the liberation struggles of African people. So throughout the United States, in D.C., and I know in some of the other major cities, African Liberation Day events used to be, very big events. They would have all kinds of speakers there, and what the speakers would discuss is, like what you were saying earlier, with the connection between the struggles of African people here and the struggles on the African continent. And it was very popular in the 70s and 80s, because what was going on during that time period was you had countries such as South Africa, Zimbabwe, Angola, and other African countries that were still fighting for their independence from colonialism. So the African Liberation Day events here in the diaspora were organized to establish that connection between our struggles here and on the continent.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit of how your organization in Orlando is planning to celebrate African Liberation Day.
Yeah, so what we're doing on that day is what I call the African Liberation Day Unity Forum. I've invited many speakers from around the community to just discuss the works that they have been doing in Orlando, and some of the ways that we could get more active in supporting them. Because what I've noticed in Orlando and in Central Florida in general is we have a lot of organizations and activists that are doing great work for the black communities where they live, but there's not a lot of unity or coordination among those people. So I want to use this event to I want to use the event as a stepping stone to bring unity among the community in Orlando.
Unity in the community. That sounds good. That sounds empowering. All right. So you're also involved in a new organization called Africans Rising. You want to tell us about that and some of the work that they are doing?
Yes, they were actually formed last year on May 25th as well, and they're a Pan-African organization on the African continent, currently made up of activists from around the continent. And what they're trying to do as well is to reach out to the Africans in the diaspora to get them more involved in the activities. And actually, this African Liberation Day Unity Forum that I'm planning in Orlando is in a connection to that what Africans Rising is doing, because what they're trying to organize on May 25th is to have people organize their own African Liberation Day events, throughout the world. So I've been working along with them to put together this event.
Mm-hmm. So Africans Rising is on the continent.
Yes,
of
yes,
Africa.
yes. Currently made up of people on the continent, but as I said, they're
Yes.
trying to reach out to Africans in the diaspora, which is how I've got in contact with them. I've been working with them.
I like the name Africans Rising. Were you part of developing that name?
Not all. I just started working with them recently with this African Liberation Day event, but like I said, they've been around for almost a year now, and the reason why they came up with the name Africans Rising is they're a group of Africans that are rising to create an empowered future for people on the African continent and for African descendants everywhere.
Very good, very good. Okay, you know, I'm amazed at the strides you've made over the last 2 years or 3 years. When did you first come in the spotlight?
3 years, 2015.
2015. That was your first interview.
First interview, public interview ever. And I remember I was extremely nervous for the interview, and it's I've done so many now. I'm much more comfortable.
Absolutely, of course,
speaking
of course.
publicly.
I remember I had to calm you down a little bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You were rushing. I said, no, listen, you're the expert. Everybody wants to hear what you have to say. So just tell it to them. That's nice. You've really come a long way in a short time. Is there anything else you want to talk to us about? Maybe you could give us some details for the folks in Brevard County, Orange County, who might be able to come and, find out what's going on for African Liberation Day on
Yes,
the
it's
25th.
like I said, the event will be in Orlando at a place called Three Mask, and I apologize, I don't have the address with me because I wasn't expecting to.
Okay, so tell them where they could get the information on your webpage,
It's
any
on,
one of your pages.
Yeah, it's a Facebook event, so I think you just go on Facebook and put African Liberation Day Unity Forum, and that's the name of the event on Facebook. So I do have a Facebook page set up where people can find all of the information there.
Okay, and I will list it as well on the Steelpan Vibes Radio Show Facebook page.
Thank you.
Restoring the African Mind. You want to direct some people to that and tell them what that's about on Facebook as well?
Yes, there's a Restoring the African Mind Facebook group page, and what that's about, that's part of the work I've been doing with Restoring the African Mind. As I've said, I believe the first step that we need to take as African people to correct the problems that we're facing is to restore the mind, and by that I mean just correct the thinking, the way we think about ourselves, the way we think about the situation, and kind of going back to our original culture as African people. And part of that, as we've been discussing, is family values. That respect for mothers and for womanhood in general is a very important aspect of our African culture as well.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think people of African descent, or at least some people, they appear to be afraid to deal with those, to deal with themselves in terms of their cultural identity and so on? Why do you think?
Because we're taught to believe that way, and I know from my own experience, I was one of those people that had a very negative view of African people, of African culture, and of Africa, because every time you see Africa in cartoons or movies or wherever it may be, it's always a very negative depiction of poverty, of civil war. They always give us this depiction that we were savages running around in the jungles. And I know I grew up with that, so it took me a while before I could decondition my own mind in terms of how I thought about Africa and how I thought about myself as someone of African descent.
Mm-hmm. So our minds really need to be restored. Yes. And there's nothing wrong with restoring your mind. If you realize you're going down the wrong path, it's like driving a car and you get lost. You put your GPS and say, oh, this is the way I should go. Oh, I need to reverse. So you reverse and then you go the right way. The correct way to get to your destination. Everybody brings their cultural experience, regardless, whatever it is. We have to bring ours as well. I mean, that's your foundation. That upon which you can build. If you don't have any foundation, what are you building? So we need really to restore our African minds. It's good for us. It's good for our children. It's good for the nation. Trust me. All right, let's go. All right. Anything else you want to say? I think we still have a few minutes.
Okay, well, like I said, Africans Rising has been organizing these African Liberation Day events, and what they've been doing is encouraging people to, organize these events in their own communities, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be a large event. Like, the event I'm doing has speakers. it doesn't even have to be an event like that. One of the events that I saw they've been organizing is a beach cleanup. So what I would do is I would like to encourage listeners to get more involved in the communities and just do, even if it's something small. Doing something small in the community is still better than not doing anything at all. And that's what I want to do with this Unity Forum, just to get people in the community to start working with each other to take the steps that we need to take matters into our own hands and fix our problems ourselves.
Absolutely. I love that. Now this guy's 27 years old giving me advice. Imagine that. That's great. I love it. Okay, well, tell us something. Steelpan Vibes is more than music radio show. What have you learned recently, at least since your last visit, about the Steelpan? Anything new?
Well, because I thought the topic for the show was going to be African Liberation Day, so I wanted to come here and discuss the influence of the Steelpan on the African continent. And one of the stories that I found in doing my research was in 2004, Owen Arthur, who was at the time the Prime Minister of Barbados, had went to Botswana, and they greeted him with a Steelpan orchestra. So his comment was he was very touched that the Steelpan originated in the African diaspora and that it made its way back to the mother continent.
Yes. I'm going to send you some information about the gentleman. He's from Trinidad. His name doesn't come to mind right now. Who did start a steel band with his family in Botswana while he was there. Might have been a diplomat of some sort or a teacher, and he started it there. So that could be related. But that's great.
But and that's also what we were talking about earlier in terms of the connection with Africa, because the Steelpan originated in Trinidad and Tobago, and that came out of the African culture. Africans had their drums that were taken from them, so they had to build a new instrument. So it's always interesting to me to see how the remnants of the African culture here in the diaspora makes its way back to the African continent in terms of not only the Steelpan, but other examples as well. For example, I know reggae music is very popular on the African culture continent.
Absolutely.
As well. So it's always interesting to see how our culture here in the diaspora makes its way back to the mother continent.
That's the connection there. That's great. Well, I'm always glad to see you. I know you're going to be coming back in about 2 weeks to talk with one of the activists from Togo.
Yes, about the situation in Togo. And that actually will also be part of what I've been doing for not just African Liberation Day, but what I'm calling African Liberation Week, because I want to do a week of different African liberation activities.
Well, we look forward to having you back. Thanks a lot. And
thank you.
Wish your mom a very happy Mother's Day.
Will do.
Thank you, Dwayne. Okay, folks, that was Dwayne Akio Wang Omowale. Wow, what a talented young man. And with some very solid and positive advice for us, including mothers. So what's the last word? Intercessors and prayer warriors. Two very powerful activities mothers engage in on behalf of their children. I could only imagine how many situations the answered prayers of my mother averted serious, even grave consequences for me. Let us remember the words of Scripture. Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Song for Mama, Boys to Men, hit back in the day with pianist Robert Tobit from his Queen of the Heart album. That's taken us home on another fine Saturday. And from all of us, stay strong, stay focused, be encouraged, have a wonderful Mother's Day. May God bless you all.